The sand in this hourglass is rapidly running down. And while there is still time, let's help the unfortunate victims of muscular dystrophy. Please volunteer to call on your neighbors and ask them to contribute to the march on muscular dystrophy. To volunteer, send your name and address to me, Jerry Lewis, Post Office Box 950, Hollywood 28, California. Thank you.
Joe, from FNH, I told you about our douchebag, I don't say friend, but the douchebag Nick who skates with them.
Yes, Jacques.
He's had a rough week. I guess he came...
How rough was it?
Well, he came home and his girlfriend had packed all her bags and was like, loading it into, a cab. And he's like, where are you going? What's going on? And she told him, it's like, my mom says I can't live with you anymore. He's like, why not? Well, my mom says you're a pedophile. And he said, well, that's a big word for an 11-year-old.
Wait, so did he have sex with...
Raping children's
Yeah,
funny.
Is that funny? Oh,
It's
okay.
hilarious.
Hi, this is Joe.
And this is Jacques.
And you're listening, unfortunately, to Carnival Personnel.
So, again, this is one of those weeks where we're recording on a Saturday, and late Thursday night, early Friday morning, we kind of had formulated the things we were going to talk about, yuck about, mock, and we sent the set list, for lack of a better word, completely out the window. We were going to talk about like the eclipse. That was going to be a big thing.
Yep.
About Trump looking directly at the sun.
Right. He's
very presidential. He's not taking shit from anybody, not even the sun.
Yeah, fuck the sun.
Then we were going to talk about, this week in awful with the Patriots, as it turns out that Robert Kraft decided he was going to give Trump a Super Bowl ring, a Super Bowl 51 ring.
Right.
And that has, my feathers in an uproar, so to speak. But yeah, that's now on the back burner as we find out Julian Edelman is gone for the season. So, yeah.
Why do they play preseason football?
But that's the thing. You got to get ready. Football players play football, and you have to get ready. And it's one of those, and we'll get into it more, but it was one of those non-contact, just running, made a cut one way, made a cut the other way. His leg decided to not make the second cut. And there you have it. But seriously, and then the awful, which we'll get into yesterday. Yesterday, one of the worst days I can possibly remember for president, and just the over bigotry and racism, and
to pass that sort of legislation under a hurricane.
Right.
There's a federal emergency happening in one part of the country. All eyes are on that storm. Hopefully nobody got seriously injured during that storm. I haven't checked on the news yet, but you would think that the president would be all hands on deck to prepare for FEMA, for emergency management over there.
He did send out a couple tweets, so don't forget that.
Yeah.
Right. So
right.
He's on top.
But then he followed through with one of his bigger tweets of the past couple of months, which was the transgender ban. He signed into, I guess. How does America work again? Is there legislators, or is it just sort of like he signs, like a piece of paper? Is it all executive order
right.
now?
It was almost a month. It was almost, and seriously. And then on top of all this, and we'll get into that, Jerry Lewis dies this week, which, 91 years, he started performing at 5. I mean, and like we've said with the other comedians that have died and other actors this year, died with dates on the book. He was still out performing at 91.
Talk about an eclipse. Poor Dick Gregory.
Right. And was it 24, 48 hours in between? Well, it was the same. Wow.
It was the same day.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. And we said that before. It was, oh gosh, now I'm trying to think.
Farrah Fawcett died.
Farrah Fawcett died.
Michael Jackson died.
And 4 hours later, Michael Jackson died. And the comedian was saying, if there's one thing we learned, don't die the same day somebody much more famous than you dies. And
yeah.
And so here's Dick Gregory, a pioneer, another absolute.
Who not a lot of people know about nowadays.
And a lot of the people from that era have been forgotten for so many reasons. But here's somebody who should be remembered for so many more reasons than just the comedy aspect.
All of the activism, yeah.
Especially now. Truly.
Oh, yeah. Like, he was like a visionary. when you look back, I saw some of the clips of Dick Gregory talking to Dick Cavett in the '90s about just like how we're. The malnourished doesn't just mean like the starving kids in Africa. It also means like the fat, balding businessmen in the airport you see who are like overeating,
Right.
So, he was a big advocate about weight loss and diet and good health. And also the civil rights stuff that he did.
Which again, the comedy aspect that a huge figure for many years that,
So where do we start?
I don't know. So, all right, let's get into it. Let's start with POTUS. You can't go in order or rank them. They're all just equally awful, but we'll start with the trans ban.
Yeah.
Which a month ago, he tweets out, unbeknownst to anybody associated with the military whatsoever, unless he's was conferring with the captain from the Captain Crunch cereal box he was eating that day. But there was no military advisors involved in this. There was nothing leading up to it. One day he just wakes up first thing in the morning and says, no more trans in the military. We're getting rid of all this. We have to focus on the agenda. What? It's like 5 years ago or 6 years, whenever it went through, the evolution from don't ask, don't tell to the point where the military is like, proudly serve openly.
Yeah.
Like your services are needed.
I forget who was president at the time.
Yeah, I think it was that non-white guy Trump has no policies or no stance on anything. It's anything that Obama can do day by day. I think he has a tote board, what the black guy did, and how quickly I can undo it. And the trans, the support of the whole community in the army. It's the military. It's all testosterone. There's so many people who inside had to fight very hard for all of these progressions. You don't think of the armed forces as the most progressive unit. I don't say that disparagingly, but that's just, things probably move slower in the military as far as evolution of everything as far as that goes.
Yeah, like social issues and and inclusion.
Thank you. There's a grown-up word. Well, that's a big word for an 11-year-old. But truly, there was nothing leading up to this, and everybody at the Pentagon and the Joint Chiefs were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, there was nothing leading up to it as far as the military was concerned.
Right.
How long had this been cooking in the Trump campaign behind closed doors?
But with who? Even people around him had no idea that this was one of those mornings where everybody is waking up a lot of people were caught off guard, even inside. But the military, reacted in the best they could. It's like a tweet isn't a policy. Right.
Well, a tweet isn't a policy, but that's his tactic. He plants the seeds of these notions that he's getting from somewhere because – I honestly don't know if Trump has many convictions of his own.
Like I said, I don't think he has almost any. And a lot of it is obviously Putin pulling some strings, the people the Koch brothers pulling others. But where this comes from, which group out there has been festering for the last 5 or 6 years, saying all the money, because the military is spending money on procedures and medical, things associated with trans and stuff like that, which all reports have it coming out 0.1% of the budget. We're talking, this isn't a big expenditure to help with this kind of stuff or to deal with this stuff internally. So if there's some fiscal conservatives out there saying we have to put an end to this to save the military, but you just said you were going to increase the military budget 19% of their total trillions of dollars.
Right, but that's not to pay for transgenders, see?
Right. It's just, honestly, and I know his base. Yeah, but who in his base? It's who have we've heard in the last 5 years coming out fighting against this?
I don't know. I mean, is this do you know the answer to this question? Are you posing
no,
this?
I've not. It's not rhetorical. I've not heard of people either inside the military fighting against it. I've not heard of groups out. Yes, there's people who don't like transgenders, period, who have a problem with people being transgender, period, who don't want this.
It actually makes you wonder who he's paying back with this.
Right.
During the campaign, where I'm sure a lot of the money came from Russia. I'm sure a lot of the money came from these like dark sources, like these underground.
Well, and not even dark sources, open sources. Like the owner of the Jets, Woody Johnson. He's a big Trump supporter. Got an ambassadorship right away. Like all the people, like the Ben Carsons, and you go down the list. The people who were supportive of him early on got cabinet positions. Right.
Yeah.
You just go down the list. So, who is he paying back?
It's a big question for even bigger people to answer.
Well, the other, one of the other things this week is, and it was great, ABC News was ahead of the curve. And ABC News, the day before or the morning of his big press conference about Afghanistan, had republished all of his anti-involvement in Afghanistan tweets of like the last few years, like going back to like 2011.
Yeah.
Every time that Trump's like, we're losing too much lives there. This is like on and on. And they're like, today when he flip-flops, I want everybody, like ABC News, it's like, here's everything that he's put out. These are his own words type thing. But so they want to add another 3,500 troops. When you think, wow, that's a lot, but then you realize that's about 1/5 of all transgender people actively serving in the military. So 5 times the troop surge that you want to have in Afghanistan represents the number of trans in the military. And so his new policy says, we're not going to let any more of these people come in. And for the next 6 months, he's letting the head of the military figure out what he wants to do with the people in there who are actively deployed.
Yeah, it's crazy talk.
But like you said, he was using the cover of a natural disaster to cause that. And then the other natural disaster, Joe?
I forget. Damn it. Read the paper that's in front of you.
No, the pardon. I mean, just less than 2 weeks after saying...
That ain't natural, dude. You threw me with that. That's not a natural disaster.
That's what I'm saying. He's using the natural disaster to cover for the long-lasting disasters. And again, it's like I said, like last week, and Joe, thank you for tweeting out. Like Joe basically thanked everybody in Boston because last Saturday it was a complete 40,000 people. The estimated. It was a great peaceful rally. I felt very proud to have brought the sun to it. And then Joe tweeted out this week that a bunch of rallies around the country, based on the success of the show out of the people preaching anti-hate, had basically scared off a lot of these rallies.
Yeah, there were like 39 protests planned in like 20-something states, and they all got, we're good.
So
we'll keep to the internet. Thanks.
So we'll recap. POTUS comes out as pro-Nazi. A week later, there's a Nazi rally planned in Boston, and Boston says, not in our town, and it was peaceful. So a week after that, Trump has to make sure that his Nazi friends and his racist friends and his bigot friends realize, I still got your back. Don't worry. He pardons Sheriff.
It's Al. It rhymes with Scott Baio. It's like Al
Paio. And now here's somebody brought this up, and I was talking to a buddy yesterday. If you know a sheriff on the other side of the country, why? It's like, what kind of douchebag media whore sheriff, 2,500 miles away does everybody here know? Why does everybody in the country know Opile? Because for the last 30 years, he's been a racist media whore, spreading hate, spreading fear, spreading ignorance, and was convicted of what he was actually convicted. I think it was in 2011. He had this basically pull over anybody brown you want, and you can search him for any reason. And the state Supreme Court said, no, you can't do it. And he kept insisting to, all the people under his watch, yep, go ahead, keep doing it. So it was completely against the court, a contempt of court, that he was found guilty of.
Yep. And then, of course, he was pardoned. But what I want to bring up is I retweeted this out from John Fugelsang, who retweeted the Phoenix New Times thread about Joe Arpaio. And it's a thread that I want to kind of half read now. From the new Phoenix New Times. We've been covering Joe Arpaio for more than 20 years. Here's a couple of things you should know about him. He ran a jail that he described as a concentration camp. Prisoners there died at an alarming rate, often without explanation. One of his jailers nearly broke the neck of a paraplegic guy who had the temerity to ask for a catheter. One time, as a publicity stunt, He marched Latino prisoners into a segregated area with electric fencing. He ran an ongoing Mugshot of the Day contest on the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office website. He arrested New Times reporters for covering him, which they won a $3.75 million settlement. Under him, the sheriff's office failed to investigate hundreds of sex abuse cases, many of which involved children. But he somehow found the time and money to send a deputy to Hawaii to look for Barack Obama's birth certificate. Oh, and the one time he staged an assassination attempt against himself, that was weird.
A little bit.
Yeah. In 2013, a federal judge confirmed what literally everyone in Phoenix knew. He had been racially profiling Latinos. And yes, Jacques, they use the word literally. Go for it. No, that's not it. Try again. Literally, it's a light bulb one. The light bulb. No, that's at the cash register. Light bulb. There we go. Oh, that'll be fun to edit. So naturally, he hired a private investigator to investigate the judge and his wife. He also kept on profiling people, which is why he got charged with contempt of court and was found to be guilty as fuck.
And here's the great thing. Trump had a Trump 2020 rally. I mean, and the reason he had a Trump 2020 rally is that way you could keep people from coming in. He could absolutely keep the crowd,
Right, it was like a private function almost.
Right. And so at that, he hints that he's going to pardon him. This is people, everybody.
Well, I didn't know that because the news turned the cameras off.
Right. No, he right. Thank you. See what he did there? But it's great. I mean, no, it's not great. It's absolutely horrible, but he's still treating it like a reality show. He said, I'm not going to pardon him today, but I think Sheriff Joe's going to be okay, to thunderous applause. And again, he's like giving the teaser before like the commercial break to stay tuned to see what awful thing he's going to do.
Right.
And I'm
going to pardon someone right after the break.
and so really, this is the person. It's not a political prisoner. It's not somebody who is wrongfully convicted. It's not somebody who is a victim of circumstance. It's not one of the 200 people who are facing serious jail time for protesting at his inauguration. No, it's a guy who has spent 30 years. Well, he's 85. He's spent probably, let's be honest, probably 76 of those years being a horrible, racist, bigot person. And this is who you're going to use your first presidential pardon for. And again, the same day you sign the trans ban is the same day that you pardon Sheriff Joe during a national disaster.
Yes.
But it did...
Slightly before a national disaster.
It did take focus away from him staring directly at the sun during the eclipse.
Yeah, that was wild and wacky. So there was a couple of... somebody else... I love Twitter. Somebody else on Twitter recently tweeted, "This is our presidency right now." And it's a picture of... It was a side-by-side picture of Trump staring into the sun and a picture of Pence visiting some plant where there's a big, giant vat with a sign that says "Do not touch" with his hand on it. Yeah. And that's the administration that's running our country. Help, I want to die.
And then the fun thing is I saw a great tweet, a 4-panel tweet of, hey, look at the eclipse. And it was a picture of Trump with slowly a picture of Barack Obama covering it.
Oh, that was
and then Trump tweeted one out of the opposite, which you see, the darker planet blocking out the sun is what this eclipse was. But in Trump's world, he tweets out. I mean, it's like, what president would do that? Honestly.
Yeah. And I think the guy that originated that tweet, if you look back into his history, which they did, he had some lovely anti-Semitic things to say about certain reporters.
No. I mean, if you're going to be, but at least he kept the anti-Semitic quotes to Jewish people.
Yeah, see, right, very restraining.
But seriously, it's like, and again, it's like we talked about this last week, and I hate bringing up the same crap, but when Hillary had said, he retweeted a guy who had 2,000 followers who had this really Nazi, an absolute Nazi, during the primary. She's like, you just gave a platform to this guy to 25 million people. Right. Somebody who
here stand in front of this megaphone, they can reach America and the world.
And so it's the same thing by tweeting that out. And honestly, my favorite meme, and you saw it 1,000 times. Don't look up. He looked up.
Yeah.
But then and again when I think it was Tucker Carlson comes out and says, "Go ahead."
Oh, he said that it took a lot of guts that hasn't been done by a president ever before. That he's the first president with the guts to do something like that.
And again, it's like, I don't remember Tucker Carlson being a humorist.
Yeah,
I think he was just being serious.
Absolutely.
So no matter what asinine, horrible thing he does. Now, this brings up another point, Joe.
Oh,
I can't believe I'm saying this. This is the second time I'm going to say this on the short history of our podcast. This is the second time I'm stunned to say, thank you, John McCain, who came out against, now granted, I don't know where he stands on the trans ban, but he even said, and this is the senator from Arizona, where Opile is, John McCain came out and said, no, this is a horrible thing to pardon him. It absolutely, you say you want to be the law and order president, but yet you completely disrespected the law and order in the state of Arizona. He was found guilty in a court. He had his day in court. He had his say in court. And not only was he found guilty of that, he was found guilty originally of the racist policies. That's not what he was convicted of. He was convicted of ignoring the order.
Contempt of court.
Contempt of court. So then he was brought up on contempt charges and found guilty of that. So they found him guilty in 2011 of these horrible policies, but he continued to do it. And even John McCain, now granted, that rally that Trump had, the mayor of Phoenix said, please do not come here. We think this is a bad idea. This is just less than 2 weeks after Charlottesville. Not the best time to have a rally here. Please don't come here. The governor of the state said, please don't come here, who didn't show up at his rally, Republican governor, and both Republican senators. The state could not be more red. Honestly, it couldn't be more red. But yet the local mayor, the two senators, and the governor all said, it's a bad idea. Please don't come and do it now. So, of course, he went and did it now. But even John McCain, and now again, like a broken clock twice a day. So John McCain did the right thing with the healthcare vote. And he did the right thing by coming out and saying, this is bad. You say you want to be law and order president, but you completely disrespected the law of the nation right here. So I can't believe this is the second time I'm thanking John McCain. Now, again, I don't know where he stood up on the trans thing, but and again, him and Trump have a checkered past, to say the least. But, anyways, so we covered POTUS's week of being a big pile of shit that he is, with the trans man, with this, and with looking directly at the sun during the eclipse. Now, where are the moderates who are supposed to be around him, who are supposed to be like being a progressive voice, or being that was the whole thing with
yeah.
And then again, and like we keep saying, okay, nobody's talking. You had brought up earlier, it's like nobody's talking about everything else. Like Betsy DeVos is still out there, doing horrible things. At the same time, Jared still has his security clearance. Jared is still the quote-unquote head of dealing with the Mideast peace thing, as he's now being investigated, and his family has gone out and hired like the top crisis management PR firms that they've gone out and hired. They know he's being investigated on financial fraud charges. They know he's being investigated with the whole Russia, everything to do with the Russia. Why does he still have a security clearance? I mean, at what point does...
White privilege.
Right, exactly. And then you saw, Ivanka tweets out all these. She's saying, "Oh, here I'm reading all my fan mail from all these children."
Right, all these quote children. They all look like they were written by the same person with their non-dominant hand, to make it look like they were written by children. I was looking for the actual open box of markers, on the table in the picture.
Yeah, see, I don't know why you're negative. I believe they were written by children. I truly do. But the children in sweatshops where she has her clothes made, during their lunch breaks, they were made to write letters to her.
You better put down that take, because it's too hot.
Oh, man. Okay. So... enough of that, because honestly, but it's hard to say, hey, we want to have a funny yuck it up podcast with a couple weeks ago. It was like, are we going to have nuclear war with North Korea? And you can't keep track of it. But let's talk about what's really important. Julian Edelman.
Yes.
Gone for the season.
He's gone.
And what's horrible is the Patriots were completely loaded. This doesn't railroad. Look, they're still in the shittiest division of football. Miami is the only team. It's the only team I'll say it now, that has a chance of breaking 500. I don't know if they do play 500 football. They do. The Dolphins will play 500 football because they play the Bills twice and they play the Jets twice. And the Jets and the Bills have both openly said, we're playing for the future. They've traded away their best players. They're stocking up on draft picks. They're not playing for this season or next season. Both the Jets and the Bills are playing for 2 to 3 years down the road. I mean, you look at just the Patriots alone got the best running back off the Bills.
I'm just eating M&Ms while he's talking. This is great.
And the
I can't believe I don't get paid for this.
Hey, we'll get to the defunct sponsors. Now that money will be rolling in. But seriously, it's like the Jets and the Bills have already forfeited the season. Granted, at any given Sunday, the Pats might go 3-1 against the Jets and Bills collectively in the 4 games. So at the bare minimum, the Pats are still going to win 11 or 12 games. But the regular season means absolutely nothing. And when you see what a security blanket Julian Edelman is, and it's just funny to think about that and that how much Brady was dependent for a 5-6 season on Welker, and then Edelman. Edelman is 8 catches away from being the 3rd all-time leading catch passer in playoff history. In playoff history, in the 52 years of the Super Bowl, Julian Edelman is 8 catches away from being. So obviously he won't have it done this year. And the year that last time he went down in 2014 or 15, the Pats were 9-0 when he got injured, and they end up going 3-4 the rest of the season and losing in the first round of playoffs.
So if he's out for the season. So he's not suited up, he's not
ACL,
nothing.
ACL. That's the best case scenario. He's back practicing in 9 to 10 months.
Great.
So
fantastic. So who steps up?
That's the good thing. So the last time he went down, their receiving core was nothing like it is now. So they have Cook, who essentially was their first-round draft pick. They traded their first-round draft pick to New Orleans for their number 1 receiver, an absolute stud, probably one of the top. He's definitely in the top 10, maybe the top 5 receivers in the league. So Cook, you got Hogan, who I love, and
we'll see more Matt Hogan this season.
And you got Amendola, who can step up more. They also they have like 5 really legit running back, 3 of which are pass catching running backs. They got Gronk, so if they can stay healthy, they still go. I'll still say that they go 12-4, they go 13-3. But the big thing isn't that. The big thing is,
well, how many playoff games did Gronk play last season?
Right, exactly. But the thing is, they had prepared for Gronk not being there. They knew he was going to be out the beginning of the season, and they went out and got Martellus Bennett on a 1-year thing.
Now they know that Welker. Edelman will be out. So they got a couple of weeks notice.
They do. They got one more preseason game. They got 16 days, something like that, from him going down. They had 13 days from him going down to week 1 of the NFL season. And then they do. They still got time. It's just that's Brady's security blanket. Like you're talking 40% of the passes that Brady throws the last 6 years have been to Edelman.
Yep.
So when Gronk went down, and again, it's like you look at the Super Bowl. I mean, I was going to say one of the best plays in the Super Bowl, but that catch that Edelman made, that's going to live in NFL history. I think that eclipses so many other great catches in the history of Super Bowl games. The immaculate reception.
Yeah.
I think this
is better.
This is better because he was surrounded by 3 guys.
Right.
The fact he was able to contort and get there. But let's not gloss over the other thing we wanted to talk about. It's been a hard week to be a Patriot fan before this happened.
Yes, because we learned that Robert Kraft decided in all of his infinite wisdom that, hey, I lost a Super Bowl ring essentially to Vladimir Putin, a dictator by all accounts. So to make up for that, I'm going to give my newest Super Bowl ring to another dictator from my own country. Donald J. Trump.
And anybody out here, and the 4 people who listen to us, like Biff and Robert, that they know the great story about Putin and Robert Kraft over in Russia meets Putin. Putin's he's showing off his ring, and he's like, oh, let me try it on. Putin puts it on his finger and leaves the room. And then he was told, and this was during the Bush administration. And the Bush administration people, State Department told Robert Kraft, yeah, that was a gift. No, it wasn't. It was a gift.
Yeah.
Drop it. And then the Barack Obama people, he had lobbied for them to look. This is a guy who's worth billions and billions and owns the most successful franchise, and he's still worried about getting that ring back. And the State Department under Obama had come to him and said, it was a gift.
Yeah.
No, it was a gift, Robert.
Right. Wink, wink.
So I don't know, but it's hard. And here's the other thing. It's the fact that it gives credence to people around the country who already hate the Pats to hate us more. And it already gives people, it's like, oh, like the Patriots were all for Trump. No. I mean,
only the three biggest guys on the team are for Trump.
And I don't know if they're still for Trump. I know Brady was told by his management, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
No more talking about this. Belichick hasn't mentioned anything, and good. Like, I don't want...
Well, it's unlike Bill Belichick to be silent on any issue.
Right, yeah, exactly. But you think of the number of people who didn't show up at the White House. And I'm guessing, yeah, there are some people in every locker room who are for Trump. It's just the way it is. I'm guessing, let's see, every NFL owner is a white billionaire. I'm guessing a lot of them, if this a-hole can save us 0.1% on taxes this year, that equates to millions of dollars for my family. I'm guessing most of them are, pro-Trump. But I'm guessing... I don't want to play the race card, but Dante Hightower, who didn't go to the White House, guessing not a big Trump supporter. But as a Patriot fan, yeah, this is a pretty shitty week. It's pretty shitty. Just why?
At what point, Jacques, do you disavow the New England Patriots?
It's a really great question. We've been saying with Trump, it's like, okay, he came out pro-Nazi this week. Yeah. Who's still on the bandwagon? I don't know. I literally, if that's a really fair question. So fuck you. It's a really hard question. It's like to know that, like you said, you can take away the other 52 men on the Patriots, and it's still like, and you're doing it with Jules, but you got Brady, who wasn't a huge out in front, but the whole hat controversy. You had the letter from Hoodie. It's hard to separate.
Do we start a new hashtag, not my team owner?
Yeah, and honestly, this is like the second time in a few years that I've loved a lot of things about the Krafts and the way they've run the team and the organization. But when Kraft didn't stand up to Goodell with the whole Deflategate thing, and he started to, but then you saw it like in the middle of it, it's like, okay, he agreed to the fine and he agreed to the first round draft pick. This is before the official Brady suspension, and everybody thought, hey, quid pro quo, he's doing this and that suspension goes away. It's like, hey, that didn't happen. Everybody wanted Kraft to come out hard like he did when they first got to the Super Bowl 49 the week after this broke, and he was adamant, demanding an apology from Goodell, demanding retribution for what he had put the team through the week before and stuff like that. That fire and brimstone. But then when he backed off of that, he didn't take him to court. And I get it. People thought he was trying to get Brady not suspended. But then you see him yucking it up with Goodell, at some business function. It's like, you motherfucker, this is all just for show. It's like at the end of the day, your team makes you hundreds of millions of dollars a year and just fuck us little guys. So it's tough to separate. And this is why, like, I don't want to know anybody in the Pixies' political leanings. Like, I just don't.
Right, because you see Robert Kraft, when he's not being political, when he's being genuine, you think, this guy is such a kind, sweethearted person. He does so much for the New England area. He does so much for the football community. He does so much for a charitable organization, the Myra Kraft Foundation.
Right.
He does so much for this. He does so much for that, which you cannot say about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is just pure fucking like dark matter evil.
And again, it's like when Kraft had come out a few months ago and said, "Look, I've been friends with Trump forever, for 40 plus years. They've had a friendship relationship. Look, there's only so many like billionaires out there. They truly all know each other. They all run in those circles. They've had business transactions at one point." And Kraft had said when his wife died, Trump called him every single day for a year. And it kind of humanized him a bit. And here's Kraft saying he invited me to things I wouldn't go to or I couldn't go to, but he made an excuse to call every day that Myra died for an entire year just to see. And I can count the number of people on one hand outside my immediate family who called every day to see. And it's, okay, maybe this is the one good thing Trump's ever done. Maybe he does have a human. And you see that, but it's like, no.
I'm shaking my head while you're saying this because
I don't buy it.
No, because Donald Trump sees Robert Kraft as close to an equal as he thinks he is. Like, he doesn't extend an olive branch to anybody that he might feel is lesser than Donald Trump. Right. Do you know what I mean? So this is sort of a parallel move. Like, he sees Robert Kraft as another kind of enterprising, man, successful, multimillionaire. If not billionaire, I don't know what is. I don't think the Kraft's in the billionaire aspect.
Oh,
now.
you can't be to not own an NFL team.
Okay.
I mean the teams alone, start like the shitty. If you go and buy the Jacksonville Jaguars, the price tag starts over $1 billion.
Oh, okay, so he's a billionaire. So that's it. I mean, so yeah, one billionaire consoling another billionaire who he has known for decades. Yeah, that's sort of something that I would expect out of Donald Trump. If it happened to anybody else, like if anybody, do you think he's going to console? He didn't even console the parents of Heather Heyer.
Right. No, that's not true. He tried to call during the funeral.
Right.
Like, actually called during the funeral.
Yeah.
I can't believe they didn't take my call.
Yeah, just drop everything.
And again, it's like, yeah, so Joe, I hate the question. It's a fair question. At what point do I say,
when do you take a knee?
I'm done. Yeah. And again, that happened this week. The Cleveland Browns. So we're not really talking NFL.
Oh, snap.
14 players took a knee during the national anthem during their second preseason game. One white dude. And it's funny, his wife is black, and she was saying, I'm really thankful about doing it, but at the same time, it's kind of legitimized, like, this movement now. Oh, a white guy's doing it too, and it's like, really?
Right.
It took a white guy,
right? And now it's more acceptable a little bit.
And they did a great. I was watching some clips. I was watching a side by side of Fox News saying that the Nazis are okay for protesting. How dare these people take a knee during the national anthem? It's okay to protest and scream, Jews won't replace us, while draped in Nazi paraphernalia. But a bunch of football players, taking a knee, still.
I know we're talking in circles
right.
here. I mean, it's just like, what the fuck are we spending our time talking about? Honest to God.
And here's the crazy thing. Oh no, here's the crazy. Now a crazy.
Yeah,
part.
right.
It's like this week, before all that bullshit, earlier in the week, he was calling out Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan to blow up the House and Senate again to force through his tax plan, right. Which, again, everybody has said it, and it's true. I don't think you start talking about tax reform until he releases his taxes, because, of course, any tax reform that he's trying to fit through, fuck the other 400 million Americans. If it suits him, great. But he was going to battle with Mitch McConnell, with Paul Ryan. He goes to Arizona and publicly is feuding with John McCain, and I forget the junior senator from Arizona. So
Flake.
Thank you. I mean, it's like, okay, well, there's four. You know what I mean? Just At what point, just between Mitch McConnell and two Arizona Republicans, that's three people that you're going out of your way. You've already told the Republican, the woman in Alaska who voted against health care, that you're going to pull funding from her state. It's like, how many people does he have to target and go after in his own party before even they say,
wipe them out, all of them?
But yeah, I mean, okay, enough of this stuff. You were talking about like money earlier, so why don't we crank out one of our defunct sponsors and see if we can maybe not Kraft is the only one who can, or Trump is the only one who can self-servingly get things rolling in his favor. Let's see if we can get some cash flow cooking.
Money.
On USA Tuesday Night Fights, you can see him coming up, and you can see him going down. And you can see giant killer Little Stevie Johnson risk his unblemished record against Canadian Howard Grant for the NABF lightweight belt. TNF on USA Tuesday.
And again, a big shout out to our marketing department.
Yeah, it takes countless hours to dig up, literally, these sponsors.
Oh, so again, the big fight, Joe. Here we are. And I don't think anybody could be more excited for the Ali Lyle Alcedo fight.
Wow. Let me go back in the Wayback Machine for that reference.
Yeah, so, it is worth the Google, but Muhammad Ali did fight Lyle Alcedo. I believe it was at Dodger Stadium. And honestly...
And who was Lyle Alcedo for those of us?
Lyle Alcedo was a football player turned actor, huge steroid user, like a big fan. This is long before like steroids were.
Yeah, he was like an 80s, 70s, 80s football player.
Very out in front of it, and he did. He's ferocious football player. One of the scariest people ever. Then he becomes like an actor-ish.
Yeah. He was like in a couple of action movies. I think he appeared on Married with Children. That sort of thing.
He always playing himself, pretty much.
Right.
An over-the-top personality, but
it was the role he was born to play.
And when you look, and we've talked about Hulk Hogan and Rocky Balboa. Funny. It was essentially like that, but oh my gosh, it was. And truly, when you say Ali just toying with somebody, you could have pulled anybody in off the street, and
they couldn't because apparently it was not a big turnout.
Not a huge thing. No, but you got the Mayweather McGregor fight tonight.
Wait, you mean Saturday night?
I mean Saturday night.
You know what? We're not in any position to talk about this. You know who we should talk to?
I don't know. Who should we talk to?
Let's talk to us tomorrow. So how many DeLoreans do I have on my shelf? 1, 2, 3, 4, about 17. So let's take the one that's
Are you counting the boxed ones or just the unboxed ones?
Unboxed ones.
Okay.
So let's hop in the biggest one that we can find. That's what she said.
Hello.
What the hell that means? Let's go. Let's fly to the future and hear what we have to say 24 hours from now. Ready?
And
wow, what a fight that was.
That was an incredible fight. It surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, 10 rounds.
A lot of it's off to a slow start, which was expected. But an interesting. It lived up to more. A lot of people were like, it's going to be done in the first round.
Right. I mean, I predicted. We had this little side bet going with Jim right before the fight started. He predicted 6 rounds. Mayweather, I said 5. I thought more people were saying 7 to 8 rounds. You didn't chime in. I think you were already drunk at that point.
Well, I was worried about the sprained ankle that McGregor allegedly had.
I don't know what you're talking about. We'll move on. But, I actually got to see the fight, even though I didn't pay for it. What? How did I do it, you ask? Nah, you know what? Twitter can be a wonderful thing sometimes, despite what the president's doing.
Wait. You're telling me that the internet is for more than just porn?
Yes.
Why is this the first I'm hearing
I don't know, man.
But what was interesting is, yes, the fight did go 10 rounds. Should it have gone 10 rounds?
Well, what are you referring to?
I'm referring to the fact that Mayweather was very braggadocious after the fight, talking about the amounts of money he had placed on bets on his behalf, the amounts that he had specifically, and he referred to the over-under of the number of rounds the fight had to go.
How many? What was the over-under?
9.5.
And if one were to bet the over,
it would have to go past the 9th round. If it was knockout in the 9th round, I think it would have been like a draw type thing. No one won, no one lost. But the fact that it went 10 rounds means it went over.
Right. Now, in all fairness, hindsight being 20/20, obviously he had a huge advantage going into the fight Mayweather did over McGregor, who had boxed, I think 15 years ago in an actual ring.
Right. Well, he's Irish, so at one point or another he boxed,
whether it was in the ring or outside,
and was drunk.
Right. Well, that goes without saying.
I can say that
an Irish drunk is a redundancy.
I'm a drunk.
Right. But seriously, so I mean, hindsight being 2020, you said, yeah, he bet himself to win in the over, allegedly, but he would have to have known that he would have had the stamina to go the whole 10 rounds.
But that's the thing. That's his claim to fame. So many of his bouts have been won in decisions going the distance. He's going the distance. Yeah. He's going for speed.
Oh no, you
me singing cake songs again. But again, there's so much plausible deniability where he's known as a defensive boxer.
Yep.
And he was fighting somebody who there was no tape on, so he came out incredibly slow. In the first round, throwing 6 punches, not landing, throwing 6 punches. The second round, I want to say it was 8 or 9 punches thrown, and then in the third round, he threw 12 punches. At the same time, McGregor threw almost 30 punches each round. Now, McGregor only landed about a third of his punches, where Mayweather landed 50% of his, but still, McGregor landed a lot more punches, but it was Mayweather doing his defensive thing. He also had said before the fight he was going to feel him out, see what he had, and that's his thing. See what, where again, there's no tape on McGregor boxing, really, that he was going to use his defensive skills, which are second to none, see what he has, get his timing, see how hard he really does throw. Again, that's not McGregor's forte. Not that he can't throw a punch, but there's a big difference between being punched by somebody who does nothing but throw punches, being punched by somebody who boxing is part of their repertoire. So the fact that it went long isn't surprising, but the fact that it went just
long enough,
the over or under, and again, McGregor was tiring, and that was part of it. As an MMA fighter who at the max you fight 25 minutes, you fight 5-minute rounds. Mayweather knew the longer it goes, the tired he's going to be. It's one of those things in sports. It's like, you can practice, doesn't matter if it's football, hockey, whatever. Nothing gets you in game shape like game shape. So the fact that he hasn't been in this situation before McGregor, it didn't surprise anybody that he came out strong, he came out fast, but as the 4th, 5th, 6th round started to go, he was throwing less punches. He was coming on the attack a lot less, and Mayweather really could come out of the shell and be, more the aggressor. But it's just so much a coincidence. Here he's saying, hey, this is how much I bet, and he didn't say if he bet the over-under.
Yep.
But he was very specific. Now, the crazy thing is he made $300 million.
Yeah, well, parking.
But
you ever try? I got to pay for parking.
But you think about that. So he's saying, he tried to bet 6 figures, and he said he gave money to a number of people to place bets. One friend in particular, he gave $200,000 to, who could only bet 86 or 87,000, which was a weird, very specific number. Why he was only allowed to bet that amount. And where he was such a favorite, even if you're betting $100,000, if he had won the over/under, he's only winning back his money plus, 10, whatever thousand, But truly, chump change. Absolutely, at the most, he could make is an extra 1 or 2% of what he made for winning the fight. So really, are you, risking point shaving? I don't know if that's the right term. If he did bet the over on the under and he made the fight go that last, I don't know.
He was this was his very last fight. He actually said in the ring, and Mayweather's a man of his word, I think.
Oh yeah, when you think of
integrity,
you think and honesty, you think POTUS, and you think people from the boxing community.
Right. Well, he said flat out, "This is my last fight."
Well, and he came out of retirement to do that. He hasn't the few things that McGregor had. I don't even want to say going for him, but slightly in his advantage. Lighter gloves, so he could punch harder, more MMA style gloves than regular boxing gloves. Now, I don't know how much 10 ounces versus 8 ounces really matters, but the fact that he's been actively fighting and that Mayweather has been retired for 2 years.
Yeah. What do you think it does for the sport of mixed martial arts?
I think the fact that it went 10 rounds, if you're a diehard mixed martial arts guy or even a borderline mixed martial arts guy, it says it allows you to say, look, this is an undefeated boxer. This is the best boxer in a generation. He's 50-0, and our guy who's never boxed went 10 rounds with him. So it kind of gives them a chance to say, our fighters are great boxers as well. It's not just a ground game or this, that our best can compete with your best. Well, that's true or not. We might see more of these, but at the same time, it, at least for now, gives them kind of brag-ish rights to say that our fighters can compete with boxers on just a boxing skill, and there's no way a boxer could get into the octagon with us.
Yeah. I don't see that ever happening, but it does legitimize more. Not that the UFC needed a little more legitimization. I mean, they're pretty ingrained.
I think it makes McGregor look great. I mean, I do. The fact that he went 10 rounds.
Yeah.
And again, whether Mayweather could have come out in the first round and punked him, whether he could have come out in the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th, we don't know. But the fact that McGregor could make it go. The funny thing is, it's Mayweather's last, and I think we mentioned we saw Dana White. I saw Dana White in an interview a few days ago, and he was asked, "Should McGregor hang it up after this? I mean, this is a huge payday for him." And Dana White says, "Yeah, it is a big payday. I don't know if he takes the money and rides off into the sunset, but I know there's a lot of money involved. I know there's a few lawyers from our side who helped put the deal together that we haven't seen since because they made so much money." I mean, this is they. I don't know if the final numbers are out, but it brought in. Hundreds.
A billion.
Did it hit a billion?
Gotta be.
The last number that I heard was 700,000 in pay-per-view things, unless, I don't know how many people, let's say, got it on Twitter.
Right.
And then you had 70 million, the estimated.
Okay, maybe a billion's a little bit.
But it's pretty damn close.
I don't know.
It did more than 95% of movies are going to do this year.
Yeah. I mean, this was an event, too.
It was an event.
It was an event. I don't think it cheapened either sport. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't.
I don't think it did.
I think it sort of lived. I hate to say it. I think it lived up to the hype, kind of as much as it could. Like, aside from like going all 12 rounds and then like by some weird miracle, McGregor knocks him off his feet. Right. At one point, like he's never been knocked down.
Right.
So that would have been the icing on the cake, and also would have given a lot more fuel to the white supremacists out there.
You know what I'm saying?
So maybe it was a good thing.
Are you saying he was the latest great white hope when it comes to this? Was that what this is?
Yeah. So I don't know. All in all, I guess it was a good fight. But you know what? Somebody mentioned this. I think Bill Burr mentioned this. Is like, I don't know who to root for because they're both two shit talkers.
Right. Well, I like McGregor. I mean, I would. He's such a prick. He really is.
Although I did see he was interviewed in the ring afterward. The fight, McGregor was about whether or not he would think about doing another fight, and he was like, "Well, yeah, hey man, fuck it." Yeah, let's do it. Like if anybody wants to challenge or whatever, he was completely open to the idea.
So we're not huge boxing guys, and I know this fight was in the making. They've been rumoring this boxing match for a long time, and they've been seriously talking about it for over a year. So the fact that it came together, I don't know if this opens a door to a lot of other big. I mean, how about like some of the bigger heavyweight guys in the MMA world when you get these. Ex-wrestlers turn MMA. Because some of these guys are just huge monsters.
Yeah, I mean, size matters not.
But I'm just saying it'd be interesting to see a heavyweight guy go with a heavyweight. I don't know. But I think it opens the door to more.
Yeah, but I think that would be a little bit less feasible or entertaining only because the heavier, bigger MMA guys may not have the reach or the agility or the stamina or what. But
here's the biggest question is, would it even come close to garnering half the attention and half the money?
Right.
Like who could McGregor fight next that would warrant half the attention? Is there anybody in boxing now? I mean, does Manny Pacquiao come out of retirement to fight him? Right. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, what is the big draw on that side?
I don't think there is.
Like and again, it's like boxing, it has slipped obviously over the last 20, 30 years, and MMA has only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Who in the boxing world has as big a name that will come close to drawing half of this?
I don't know.
Well, right.
You're asking the wrong person because I don't know who's the heavyweight guy in boxing. Right. That's. I mean, how many circuits are there? How many titles are there? How many heavyweight?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's so.
Who do you pick?
I mean, truly, I think wrestling is a lot bigger than either boxing or MMA. Yeah. I mean, they do like a WrestleMania. It's always happening. It's a constant. I mean, they're selling out stadiums every single week. They're either at Madison Square Garden in New York, Boston Garden here, or they fill a stadium somewhere in the country. And what? There's maybe 3-4 big UFC cards a year.
Yep.
There's a lot of undercards and smaller fights, but what would come close to any of this? But I don't think either boxing or MMA, the UFC, come out behind on this. I think it helped both.
Yeah. So win-win chicken din. Hey, what are you doing here?
Dude, those are two really great-looking guys.
Yeah. You want to get on mic? Go ahead. Say hi, Joe. Hey, man. How's it going?
Hey, and you are? I'm Jacques, you moron.
Wow. This is awkward. I don't know what quite to do in this situation.
See, Joe and I got into a DeLorean.
Yeah. And
we came here to talk about the fight after having seen the fight. We didn't think you clowns would be here.
Oh, well then, so wait a minute. You hopped into DeLorean to talk about the fight in the future, but yet you haven't seen the fight? You instantly arrived ahead of the fight. So we're talking about the fight to our audience, and now I've gone cross-eyed. I don't know. So wait. What is this? What are we watching?
This is now.
This is now.
This is now.
What about then?
That was then.
This is now.
This is a now.
When do we get to later?
Not till a little while.
Soon?
Very. We're close.
Very
soon.
Are we stopped?
There.
Well, bye, guys. Take it easy.
Seriously, the ass on the blonde.
Oh, yeah, drooping. And wet? Wow.
Those guys really know their shit.
Yeah, and did you see how svelte they look?
Oh, God. I do the blonde one.
Right. You would. Oh, dude. We should ask for the fucking lottery numbers. What are we stupid?
Seriously. We have a time machine, and we go to the future to talk about a hokey PR stuff.
Yeah.
Boxing.
And those were my last 2 pellets of plutonium.
God. So we'll have to reach out to the Iranians again?
Yeah.
No.
The Libyans.
Yeah. The Libyans.
Right.
Oh, that was great. Seriously, well worth it.
Right.
Bad news in the future, everybody. Trump's still president.
Oh, no.
In 24 hours.
Yes.
I hate to say it. So what else has got going on, Joe? Let's talk about something that doesn't actually suck. While we're talking about Back to the Future, what do you got going on in the words of Back to the Future besides the T-shirt, the 1.21
gigawatts. Well, it's gigawatts, but in the movie they pronounced gigawatts because the creative consultant that they used to find out how to pronounce it. Anyways.
No, people want to know this stuff.
Yeah, they did it in the movie Back to the Future. They didn't know how to pronounce gigawatts. They wrote it, but it was like, is it pronounced gigawatts or gigawatts? And there was a scientist that they consulted with that said, yeah, it's gigawatts. It's not gigawatts. That scientist is now, I think, head of the EPA. I don't know. I give up. So anyway, Back to the Future talk. So I'm involved in a project with the Arlington Community Media. It's ACME. It's the local public access group.
Name dropper.
Yeah, I know, right. Humble brag. I don't want to brag, but I'm part of a Back to the Future recreation committee. So there's a thing called Crowdsourced Boston, and apparently they're sort of like kind of like a film consortium, like a local film consortium, where they get groups of filmmakers from the New England area every year to recreate a movie, like an iconic movie. Last year it was Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Let me break it down even further. So each of these groups films one particular scene, and then they edit all the scenes together.
Without conferring with each other.
Exactly, right. But anyway, Arlington Community Media is also a part of that. And I am part of that crew to film a scene from Back to the Future. I don't know if they're divulging which scene we're.
Did you sign an NDA?
I don't know what I signed. I think I signed an NSA or a UTI or something like that. But anyway, so I'm part of this, and we're recreating a scene from Back to the Future. So in a couple of weeks, we're submitting our edited piece. We just filmed it on Thursday. It went well. We shot it all in one night, but I'll be helping edit that as well. So I'm proud to be part of this, and hopefully we turn out a good project. And then I guess in a couple of months or in a month maybe you'll see the final project. I think they premiere it someplace. Like I don't know if they like rent out a theater where they show it like on the big screen, but it'll be worth a Google once it is released.
So you've left the basement once this week.
Just once.
That's good. No,
yeah, and just to stare at the sun, and that was it.
And it's great because it's a father and son project on your end.
Yeah, so Connor's helping out with the audio, and I was assistant director / script supervisor, and now I'm doing a little bit of the editing. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talented people.
Did you also do craft services?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Unless you mean bringing literally a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. No.
Oh, that's great.
So that'll be fun. And what about F and H?
I didn't get an F and H update, but I'm guessing. Let me go down the list, anyways. Everybody sucked. Biff sucked, John sucked, All Star sucked. Scotty sucked. But no, I did not get the update. I remiss. Maybe we'll. Oh wait, you've used all the plutonium. We can't go.
Right. Yeah, that was it. We're gonna have to wait till the next thunderstorm. Yeah.
Oh, so that's awesome. So not everything is doom and gloom as far as the world goes. While we're talking about things that don't really suck, let's jump ahead to our either Netflix, Redbox, or having a friend borrow something from the internet without going through
that friend should be persecuted. Prosecuted
channels.
To the fullest extent of the law. What are you talking about?
Death of Superman Lives.
Yeah, I saw that. That's on Showtime right now.
I don't have Showtime, but somehow I was able to see it and give a review of it.
I can neither confirm nor deny all of this.
But if nobody knows about this, which shockingly I did not, and Joe started telling me about it a couple weeks ago, and I had heard, but they had an absolute $200 million budget. Early 90s, mid 90s. What were we talking about?
I think it was like 97, 98.
Yeah. With Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
Playing Superman.
Yeah.
And we're talking, it was it was beyond development.
And who is slated to direct this movie?
Some nobody named Tim Burton.
Oh, right.
Who Warner Brothers could not stop thanking for bringing the Batman. He didn't bring the Batman, to the big screen. He relaunched and created an entire,
He was the J.J. Abrams of the day.
He truly was. They had 3 different writers. Why don't you tell a little bit about the who was your favorite of the 3 writers?
Kevin Smith.
If you...
He was the first one, I think.
Go to YouTube and you can see Kevin Smith talking about like the death of Superman Lives. So it's an hour and a half documentary, but Kevin Smith is a third of it, a quarter or a third of it.
And surprisingly, Tim Burton is a quarter or a third of it.
And really honest about it.
And then who's the third component?
The guy who was the producer, who, I don't want to disparage like his career because he was one of the producers on Batman, the first one with Tim Burton. So he had a great relationship with Tim Burton. Jim.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look it up.
But and it's funny. He started off. Well, why don't you tell people what his career started off as?
Oh, he was like a hairstyler, right?
For Barbara Streisand.
Right.
He was Barbara Streisand's hairstylist all through the 70s.
I almost forgot about it until you asked me to define what he did for a living before so.
But he did. He did tons of huge movies, but they sunk millions into this. They had, months and months of wardrobe, and in his suit, they wanted a different kind of suit.
John Peters,
thank you. Batman vs. Superman. Basically, this would have taken place after the last year's Batman vs. Superman, where Superman gets killed by Doomsday. They had all these experimental materials. They brought in 3M and all these other companies to decide and develop new types of material because they wanted a completely different looking suit. They wanted a Kryptonian suit that he would have been buried in that would have rejuvenated him and brought him back to life. They had brought in all kinds of, prop masters, and they had full-scale models. Brainiac was one of the bad guys. I mean, truly. And then it was 3, 4, 5 months into development that Warner Brothers had a shitty year. I mean, you go through the movies that they had that year, and they had loss after loss. And we're talking $100 million features that brought in $20 million. And they canned it. They didn't want to roll the dice. They didn't think it was at a place that it was ready to be shot. And you think about that. This is Warner Brothers saying, okay, it's been in development for a couple years. It's been, we have one of the bigger actors at the time. Nicolas Cage was at the top of his career. You had Tim Burton, who probably... Was he the biggest director at the time? One of the three,
him and
four?
Spielberg, yeah.
Yeah. So you got Nicolas Cage, you have him, you have the guy who produced Batman, at the top of it, and they pulled it. And it was, I would have liked to have seen it. The Nicolas Cage, it's a long-haired Batman. It was a completely different take on it.
Superman,
sorry. It was a completely different take on it. It would have been interesting. Completely could not recommend it more. And here's one of the other crazy things. They videotaped all the costume fittings and stuff like that. So you're seeing Nicolas Cage and Tim Burton in it looks like some hotel room type thing with all these costuming people running around in full-length mirrors discussing the outfit and what do you want to change and what you like.
But they were having so much fun
doing it. Well, Nicolas Cage has a son named Kal-El. For anybody who doesn't know what a geek I am, Kal-El is Superman, Clark Kent's Kryptonian name.
Yes.
Kal is his first name, and E.L. He's from the House of El,
right,
as he's often referred to.
Well, I mean, they were written by two Jewish writers, like Israel is. I don't know what that means, but like there's a Jewish connection to the El.
So all you anti-Semites out there, stop reading Superman comics.
Right. Oh, yeah, sure. Or stop being anti-Semites.
Wait,
do that.
Hey, wait, let's baby step into it. That's the other thing. Hey, you guys don't like Mexicans? Stop eating Mexican food. You can't say, we don't want any Mexicans here while eating a burrito. There's a special place in hell for you.
So I think that took up about 20 minutes. So I'm going to just forego my Netflix pick because I really don't have one. And we'll just jump right into the stupid video game review of the week.
Hey, no. We will jump into the video game review of the week, but it is not a
random video game review of the week. So here's the moment nobody's been waiting for. Jacques, except for Jacques, going back to
this bit.
He's going back to the Wall-O video games from the 80s and 90s from the Nintendo Entertainment System. He pulled one off the shelf. He's grabbing his phone to make sure that he knows how much it costs on eBay. But first I'm going to try to pick see which one he picked off the wall based on the gap on the wall. I'm going to say it's a Wheel of Fortune game.
I'm sorry, one more time?
It's a Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune.
Junior edition.
Before you start your review, there is nothing that makes me happier than
saying Wheel of Fortune?
We'll get to Exhibit C. But one of the things that makes me happiest is the review. It's giving Joe a reason to keep collecting these things. I enjoy this bit. But when you nail it, when you from across the room based on a space
Well, it was between a Wheel of Fortune game and another Wheel of Fortune game. So I kind of had a leg up on this one. Yeah, Wheel of Fortune Junior Edition. I don't know what to say about this game. It's a kid's version of Wheel of Fortune. It's like regular Wheel of Fortune, except it's not like title of movie, and the answer is Body Heat. It's a little bit more family friendly. It was all right. It's a fun game. They churn out these Wheel of Fortune games like nonstop for every platform. Now you get it on your phones and. I have board games, and I would normally not recommend picking this up unless you are a completist or a completionist or a complete lunatic that wants to buy everything made to do with Wheel of Fortune. So that's that.
No. You say it's family friendly. First of all, have you played this version?
Probably. Yeah, I think so.
Have you played it with your family?
No.
Have you played it with a family?
No, this is although I can't say that I haven't played Wheel of Fortune with my family because I have in a couple of iterations, like played the Wii version of Wheel of Fortune not too long ago actually because it was just there and Rowan wanted to play. He just wanted to spend some time with his dad, and the only way to reach me is through video games. That's another podcast altogether. But I'm going to say that you could probably get this for $2.
You can get it for $4.99, and I saw a separate bid on eBay for just the box of it, which was going for $5.99. So if you have just the box, worth more than the cartridge itself.
Yeah. Everybody threw out the boxes when you were kids growing up. You're just like, I don't need the box. I'm not an idiot. I'm not a maniac. I don't need paper. I need the game.
No, I enjoy these reviews. Now, you got a parenting tip of the week before we call it a show?
No. No, unfortunately. I'm not a good parent. That's why I have no parenting tip.
My parenting tip for my little soul suckers, it is the first week of school. They start on Tuesday. And my parenting tip of the week is to, when you meet them at the bus stop and you get off, have some snack ready, like instantly. A little thing, not like a whole Milky Way, but like a bite-sized
Is that
one.
Martha Stewart over there? I can't see so good.
And it's a couple of things. It gives them a good start to the afternoon, gives him a little ray of sunshine, and it shuts him the fuck up the first few minutes off the bus, so you don't have to dive right into the real parenting thing.
Stick it in their pie holes.
So, right, it's like, so you can be a hero by giving them a treat, and at the same time, stopping a few extra minutes of yammering before you really have to, become a parent for the rest of the day. So,
Right.
so that's
you're basically buying 2 minutes of freedom.
They can take my candy, but they'll never take our freedom. How that became a Braveheart thing.
Speaking of anti-Semites.
Oh, yeah. Gee, I wonder if he voted for Trump.
Yeah.
So we have one more RIP for you to shout out. So let's end on a high note.
Yeah, so this week, I think it was on Thursday, the world learned of the passing of the actor and radio host Jay Thomas. He died at age 69 from cancer. He didn't really make it public that he had cancer, but he played Eddie LeBeck on Cheers. He was on shows like Murphy Brown.
I remember him more from Murphy Brown.
Right. He won Emmys for his guest appearances on Murphy Brown. And he was on Mork and Mindy. He's been a radio DJ ever since the 70s. That's sort of been his bread and butter. He actually got fired, or should I say killed off, of Cheers because of comments he made on his radio show in Los Angeles. I guess somebody called in. I'm probably getting the story wrong. Somebody called in and said, yeah, you should probably get some hazard pay for having to kiss Rhea Perlman on the show, because his character was married to Rhea Perlman's character. And he said something to the effect of, I just sort of grin and bear it, that kind of thing, not really disparaging the person's comments and just sort of going along with it. I don't think Rhea Perlman liked that so much, and I don't think the writers and producers could stand by that. So what did they do? They killed him off. How did they kill him off, Jacques?
I don't remember.
He was run over by the slowest machine known to man.
A Zamboni?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Because he was an ex-Bruin.
That's right. Oh, huge.
So they killed him, and so he...
They use that in Deadpool, by the way. Yeah, there's a scene in Deadpool where Deadpool runs over a guy with a Zamboni.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I mean, I listened to him a lot on the Howard Stern channels. He had a Friday version of his regular show on Sirius XM for years. When Howard Stern joined the company back in 2006, they needed to fill some channels on his second channel, Channel 101, Howard 101. And he was on there every Friday. First he did like the mornings, and then he did the afternoons. So I was a big fan of that show, that channel, the people on the channel, and my heart goes out to those affected by his loss. There are tons and tons of outpouring on Twitter and Facebook and social media from actors from all over who've worked with Jay Thomas, saying he was just like nothing but like a nice. He also had his famous Letterman bit where he would every year tell the big Lone Ranger story during the Christmas special show for Letterman since like the 90s, and then he would throw the meatball at the top of the Christmas tree. Yeah, the quarterback challenge. Like they would take like the latest like hot quarterback or somebody, any NFL quarterback, they would try to get to compete against Jay Thomas, and Jay Thomas would pretty much nail it almost every year. Like he'd be the first one to do it because he was an ex-football player. I think he played for Did he play for Holy Cross? He was a Jesuit. So the Holy Cross, is that
Yeah.
Jesuit? Yeah, so I think he played for Holy Cross. I don't know. But, rest in peace, Jay Thomas. This is a kind of a long, meandering.
No. I mean, you were a fan, but it's hard to not end on a down note. But we got Jay Thomas, Dick Gregory, and then of course, truly, Jerry Lewis. Which, by the way, this week's sideshow will be about Jerry Lewis. You got POTUS looking at the sun, banning trans, partying Ohio. You got Edelman going down for the week. You got Kraft giving, Trump a ring. So, Joe, a pretty fucking shitty week. But hey, at least we got to see future us.
Yes.
So much better looking.
Right.
Like, it's nice to know.
That haircut really does a world of difference on you.
Seriously, you haven't aged.
I know.
Honestly,
Oh.
you don't look like you've aged a day.
Yeah,
you really don't. So we're going to end on one of the more upbeat Dan Cray songs, just because Dan Cray.
Wait, there's an upbeat Dan Cray song?
No, there's a lot of it, but even his upbeat song sometimes has like the hey, where's that sharp knife that we have around here?
Where's that razor blade?
So we promise that next week things will get better, because they fucking have to. And don't forget.
Something